What's up, everybody? It's Professor Gnome here today, and we're going to get back on track with doing a couple little meta decks, and today we're going to be doing Iron Valiant EX and Entei V, working that together alongside Medicham V. This deck looks to utilize a whole bunch of switching along with using the Tachyon Bits ability and setting up for Yoga Loop for big plays, because what Yoga Loop allows us to do is place 2 damage counters on any Pokemon, and if we knock it out, then we're able to immediately take another turn after. So what we can do is either set up knockouts for Entei, coming in and hitting with Burning Rondo, or we're able to set up a Yoga Loop pretty easily. In order to do this, we run a lot of Switch cards, so we run 4 Escape Rope, 4 Switch Cart, and 4 normal Switch. We're also running a couple energy, like Jet Energy, in order to facilitate that as well, and Future Booster Energy Capsule, not really for anything else other than it gives us free retreat to also help get our Iron Valiants in play and switched around. The other thing we're running that I think is important is the Techno Radar in order to get the other Iron Valiants to hand. So we want to be able to do this as consistently as possible and as quickly as possible. One of the shortcomings of this deck is that your late game can be a little bit bad if you're not able to get the Yoga Loop strategy off, like, pretty consistently, and it can have a couple rough matchups. For this, we're going to run Radiant Charizard to help close out knockouts later on against higher HP targets we can't really weaken down, and also Cramorant. The reason why we want Cramorant is because it can successfully kind of finish off some damage numbers that we need, and because we're running Colress and because we're running Lost Vacuum and things like that, we can set up for it pretty easily without too much effort and have it as like a single prizer to put up, take some knockouts, and kind of help out with the prize trade later on in the game. But yeah, so that's the list, guys. So let me know what you think of it, and we'll get into the games. See you. Alright, we're into the game, and our opponent will be going first. This deck can function going first or second. It doesn't really matter too much most of the time. We'll open Entei. It really just depends on what our matchup is, on if we want to keep Entei out or if we're looking for Yoga Loops with Medicham. In a situation like this, we might be able to find it on things like Frigibax and things like that when he puts those out. Especially on the 60 damage Frigibax, it'll be pretty easy. We're only relying on 2 Valiants. So what we're going to be looking to do here is we're going to Nest Ball, put out our Iron Valiant, put on the Future Booster, and from there just discard everything. Is probably going to end up being our play. He's also running Pidgey. That's interesting. I feel like I don't see that super often. There's the double energy, which is really good to have for our Medicham. Unfortunately, we're probably going to end up discarding it, along with the fire energy, but it's kind of what we have to do. There's the VIP passes, so we can grab ourselves 2 more Iron Valiants. And we'll go ahead and grab ourselves out the Medicham. And I think that's fine for now. We'll grab 1 more Valiant. Yeah, I think that's fine. So now we can Fleetfoot. Got ourselves the last VIP pass, but we really don't need that. But this is fine. We have the other Entei in hand, so really we're going to Colress Experiment after this. We're not in the best position. We didn't hit any of our Switch cards, which is kind of nuts considering how many we run. But that's kind of the fatal flaw of this deck, I think, and something that I guess should be noted as I play it, is that this deck can be super coin flip. You can either absolutely pop off or just kind of lose immediately. and that's not always really optimal, for, you know, obvious reasons. We can still do the play, which is good. So we'll play down one Entei for now. We will think Colress immediately. Get ourselves the Switch Cart, get ourselves this, and I think we'll get ourselves the... Do we want the Magma Basin? I think we do. We'll get rid of that. So then what we can do here is, so we'll Switch Cart. We'll go into Iron Valiant. Place the damage counters onto this. We'll switch with the Escape Rope. Go back into this Iron Valiant. Place the damage counters again. Now what we can do is... Let's actually take a second. We'll Pokestop, see what we find. Okay, so nothing that is super great for us. But what we can do is Seal Stone. Go ahead and Star Alchemy. Grab ourselves the double colorless. Attach this onto our Medicham. Retreat. Go back into this. We'll Yoga Loop. Put the damage counters onto the Frigibacks. Slowing them down for a little bit. We'll be able to grab a prize card. Got another Magma Basin. Kind of not what we needed, but not too bad, all things considered. Cool, so we got ourselves another Colress. So, how do we want to play this? I think that what the best play here to do is we're going to Colress first, see what we can find. Grab ourselves this and a Nest Ball. We don't really need those anymore. We can future onto this. We'll Switch Cart. Go into Iron Valiant. Place the damage counters onto the Pidgey. Retreat this one. Go into the next Iron Valiant. Place the damage counters onto the Pidgey. Then what we can look to do is spin the Pokestops, see what we find. Found ourselves the next switch. And our opponent's going to concede. So we had the ability there, like what we could have done is Magma Basin, put an energy down, get onto Entei, and start attacking again. And really set ourselves up for success. And we're able to pull that out of kind of very little. Like, once this deck gets rolling, it's super, super good. But if you can't get that going for you, then it kind of falls apart. And it's why this deck is a little coin flippy. And what I think will hold it out of being, like, the best meta deck in the format. But I do think it's very, very good. And has the ability to just steamroll or fall flat on its face. But that's game one, guys. We'll hop into game two in a moment. And I'll see you there. Bye. Alright, we're into the next game. Our opponent has chosen for us to go first, even though they won the coin flip. We'll open with Iron Valiant, and actually we're not in a bad spot. The matchup isn't phenomenal, but that's kind of okay. So I think we grab ourselves another Valiant. And we grab ourselves an Entei here. Then what we'll want to do is we'll retreat, go into Valiant. We'll place some damage counters. Switch into Entei. Fleet-footed. We'll play the Medicham down in case it becomes relevant, and we'll go ahead and put the double colorless on it for later. Going against Roaring Moon can be really hard in this matchup, because Medicham gets very few targets that it can actually do something on, which can make it a little rough. So, like, this Morpeko is kind of like one of the few things we'll actually have the ability to target for a Yoga Loop. But also what can make it a little bit difficult is everything else. Sorry, my throat is a little weird. Everything else in this matchup can be a little bit hard to kind of get the right numbers on, and can be a little bit awkward, especially if we don't hit the switch cards that we're like really looking for. They'll be able to squawk their hand away, so that's not the worst. Also, the fact that they're on switch cards can be a little bit annoying because it kind of removes some of those damage numbers that we really need. But kind of what we can look for, since we already have the double colorless in play, is we'll be able to Colress, look for some switch options, get into our Iron Valiant, put the damage onto this, and look to Yoga Loop this just to kind of get our play started. And I think what our path is going to be is that we'll try to keep their Squawk on board as long as possible, so that way we can boss it up later and knock it out with either a Radiant Charizard or one of our Enteis. And once we put the damage down on this and we Yoga Loop it, all the rest of our damage is going to go onto the 2 Roaring Moons in preparation for the ability that we'll be able to stop them from being able to Frenzied Gouging without knocking themselves out. And that can be okay, thanks to Entei being at 230 hit points. So if they don't have a stadium in play, they can't knock us out. Or, sorry, even with a stadium in play, they can't knock us out, which means they have to Frenzied Gouging. So that can work out for us in the end most times. So really it just depends what we're able to pull off with the Fleet-Footed and the Colress. We have one of our switch options. There's another. We'll be able to Colress here. Grab ourselves another one. Grab this, and we'll grab this. We don't really need the boss or the research since we can Colress again on the next turn. Go ahead and play this down. And then we'll go ahead and look for a Cramorant. Yeah, we'll look for Cramorant for right now. And then here's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and Escape Rope. We'll put in our Iron Valiant that has the free retreat option. Put damage onto this one. We can retreat out into our other Iron Valiant. Put the last bit of damage that we need onto the Morpeko. Attach an energy onto the Entei. Switch in to the Medicham. And Yoga Loop. We'll be able to Yoga Loop onto the Morpeko. Knock that out. Take the prize card. And take a second turn. And from here, what we're going to look to do, we can Radar just to thin our hand a little bit. Get rid of that. Grab ourselves one more Valiant. Really what we're looking to do now is to power up our Entei. And get that going for us. So we'll take this. We'll take a research for the next turn. And we'll take the switch card. I think will be the best way to go about this. Is it though? Actually, I think we don't need the Charizard as much. No, we'll keep it. That one's kind of a hard choice, and maybe I made the wrong one somewhere in there. But I want to get our Cramorant online So I feel like that's fine. So what we'll do now is we can Tachyon Bits, put the damage down onto that, go ahead, take the free retreat, go into Cramorant, and take the second knockout. So that'll get rid of the Greninja in play. If they come in, knock this out, it's not the biggest deal. We can place down our Radiant Charizard, freeing room up for that on the board. We can go into our Iron Valiant that has a free retreat cost. And then if they go to play something that has low health again, we'll maybe potentially be able to Yoga Loop. But that's about it. Mainly what we're looking to be able to do is... Wow, what a crazy Pokestop. What we're looking to do is, like, let our Cramorant get knocked out here pretty much. Bring in the Iron Valiant. Just so we can get the free retreat. We'll discard. Alright, so there's an Entei. Would have preferred to be able to keep that on the board, but it's not the biggest deal. We'll go ahead and discard all this. Look for something new. So now what we can do actually is... We don't want a Magma Basin yet. We'll bring this in. And start putting... Yeah, we'll put the damage counters onto it like this. So here's how we're going to play this. We'll Escape Rope. See what they go into. Go into that. So then what we can do is we'll place another set of damage counters onto this one. So that removes its Frenzied Gouging range. Then what we'll do is we can Escape Rope again. Bring this back into the active. We can put another Iron Valiant into play. Knock that down. Then what we'll do is we'll use the Jet Energy to bring our Entei back into play. We'll be able to hold on to the Magma Basin for now. We'll hit for 260. And now we're in a position where we'll be able to knock this out on the next turn. Pretty easily, even if we need to... They'll need to find another Pokestop in order to knock us out. And we'll be able to power up another Entei pretty easily. They can't knock us out, or sorry, they can't Frenzied Gouging on either of these anymore without a Switch Cart to fix the damage on this one. And even with the Pokestop, they can't knock us out, so they'll need to find something to put a couple extra damage counters on this. So, and then in the meantime, what we can do... Okay, so they Frenzied Gouging to fix the math. But that's fine. Because as long as we can get them to put up the next... Either of these, really. We're pretty much fine because we can get our Charizard turned on immediately. And the way that we're going to be able to do that... Oh. Alright, well, I was going to do this at a kind of a slow route, but... We'll Magma Basin onto the Charizard. We'll attach for turn this way. We could do something kind of cool. So, here's how we're going to do this. We'll retreat. We're going to do a little something extra cool. So, we'll Tachyon Bits. One. We'll switch. This would be 2. Did I already retreat for the turn? I did. I messed this up. Alright, never mind. We don't get to be super cool about it, but we'll get to get all this to work anyway. Not the biggest deal. But this is why we play Charizard. I wanted to do something kind of cool where I like swapped around, yoga looped that, got a new turn, then went into Charizard and knocked out the last one just to be a little extra, but I was short 1 switch card. Or maybe there's a way I could have done it. I don't know. But yeah, so that's going to be the game. This deck can definitely be very coin flippy and is a lot of fun to play, but it's honestly very complicated. I compare it a lot to like Lost Zone in that way, so if my commentary was a little bit weird, it's because like you actually have to think a lot on how to get your numbers and everything to work the right way and like to have the right amount of switches and like everything to go right, which means this deck can like do really, really well or kind of fall apart, and you don't always get to know exactly how that's gonna work out. But yeah, I hope you guys like the deck. It's very, very, very strong, but you run into some bad matchups every now and again. But yeah, definitely let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you for making it all the way through. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, all that kind of stuff. We have a lot of more content planned, and I'm excited to start getting it more out for you guys. Thanks. I'll see you.